Hello everyone, Dan Swift here, founder and CEO at Numentum, and welcome to the Speaker Series, where we spotlight some of the most interesting minds in the world of B2B revenue generation. At Numentum, we help forward-thinking B2B organizations create better buyer experiences and deliver new momentum to their revenue engine. On this episode of the Speaker Series, we speak with Andrea Kraus, Chief Revenue Officer at Eurofiber. We have a great conversation about her journey to sales, the learning opportunities along that journey, and her structured approach to doing nothing. Welcome to the Speaker Series. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, I always like to start with some context for our listeners. So you're the Chief Revenue Officer and Chief Customer Officer at Eurofiber. So would you mind sharing just a little bit about Eurofiber and then obviously what you're doing in your role day to day?
Yeah, absolutely. So at Eurofiber, we are a digital infrastructure provider in the infrastructure and so connectivity and cloud space. Mm-hmm. We are working with customers like big hyperscalers, but also telco companies, but also directly with enterprise customers for whom connectivity is crucial, for example, for big banks, etc. Mm-hmm. Headquartered in the Netherlands and, of course, by the name in Europe, we are focusing on 4 markets: Netherlands, Belgium, France, and Germany. I'm the CRO, as you have just mentioned, so Chief Revenue Officer. I call myself rather the Chief Customer Officer. It's not an official title, but I personally prefer it. That is why I, for example, put it up on LinkedIn. And taking care of all the revenue streams, which includes, of course, product and also marketing as well.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Wow. So taking you back, when you were a little girl, is that what you thought you wanted to be when you grew up?
I'm not even sure then if this role or this title ever has existed when
yeah, that's true.
But I remember when I was 6 years old, I had to paint a picture at school, and the question was, what do you want to be in the future? And I painted me as a horse riding teacher. So that is what I initially as a child wanted to be, which is a bit, when I think about it. So it's still what I still have, or what still resonates with me is the love for animals and the love for nature. So that is still a part of me, but of course I've chosen another way. But still, I have still years to go. Maybe I will still change back to my dreams, right? So
So horse riding was horse riding a big thing then when you were a kid?
Yeah, actually, it was everything. So every day. And not only horse riding, also taking care of horses. Yeah. My uncle was, how do you say, growing horses? How do you say that? So he had
breeding horses.
Breeding horses. So I spent all my holidays there. So it was a big thing. Yeah.
Amazing. All right. Yeah. Well, obviously we did our due diligence, and I've gotten to know you a little bit over the last few years. So you obviously studied business and economics. Now I'm going to probably mispronounce this. Is it pronounced Goethe University in Frankfurt?
Yeah, pretty similar Goethe. So it's not Goethe. So it's good.
Well, how did you make that decision then? What was the driver behind picking business and economics?
A big theme of my childhood was, and it's still, to be honest, is that I'm easily get bored. So I always need to go on different adventure. I always need to experience a very wide range of things in my life. And so I wanted to study something which gives me a broad basis for acting in different directions. So I worked in my life in different industry. I worked in my life in totally different jobs from my perspective. And so always I wanted to have a broad basis and not like already being very narrow in my studies and being only able to follow one path in my life. So that was the reason for this.
That makes sense. So after graduating, you've had an incredible career. Now, obviously, you and I met towards the end of your tenure at Vodafone. You spent 4 years there. And one thing that jumps out for me was your passion for people leadership, first of all. I think it was about 800 people or so in your organization. But prior to that time at IBM, T Systems, oftentimes when we have guests on the speaker series, they normally say there's one, sometimes two, pivotal moments in their career that they really look back on and think, yes, that was a moment for me. So do you have one or a couple of those in your career?
Yeah. For me, it was really a big change in my whole life when I did my first steps into sales. So I started actually off my career on the other side of the supply chain, so in procurement. I went then in different functions. I went into delivery. I went into HR function, and only after, I think it was over 10 years or 12 years, we are working in different function, I focused or started to working in sales. And that has changed my career a lot. Sales is a business, first of all, it's very much in the heart of every company. You're the closest to your customer, or you should be as closer than any other function to your customer. And it's also a lot about human. So it's a very people-driven business, which still resonates very much with me.
That's really interesting. The roles that you had prior to going into sales then, I feel as though that must give you some sort of an advantage over folks who didn't do that because of the experience you've had, right, in collaborating with those different functions. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a fan. I found my passion in sales or in let's say customer related or being close with customers. But of course, being on the other side in procurement, that helped me a lot as well. So for example, just take the topic which always is important, negotiation. So negotiation is important in everywhere you are, but of course, especially in procurement and sales. It's not so much different if you are in sales or if you are in procurement. So what I've learned in procurement, always looking at win-win situations, always find an agreement which works for both of you. That has helped me a lot in sales as well. And the experience I have gained in delivery is just, a very blunt statement. In sales is always, you think you sell it, it's easy, it must be, so delivery comes afterwards. And that is not the truth. So when you sell something, you need to take into account already that a good sales is only as good delivery. If you deliver it badly, you will not have any add-on sales. You will lose this customer. So you need to work with delivery together already in your sales process. Take them on the journey with you. And this experience, of course, helped me a lot in delivery and procurement to work the best out for our customers.
Yeah, it's so good. We read somewhere recently, which is so true, that obviously the experience that the buyer has in the sales journey on their buying experience is a really good reflection of what their experience is going to be like as a customer. And very few salespeople are thinking like that, in our opinion, which is why obviously we spend a lot of time talking to the market about buyer experience. So your big pivotal moment was transitioning into sales. The career that you've had and the life associated with the career, is there anything that you look back on and you think, maybe I might have handled that differently, or maybe I would have done something differently, or maybe I would have taken a different path? Because hindsight is obviously there. What do you think about that?
Well, overall, of course, I would have loved to do a million things differently, to be a bit provocative, just because everything, there was so much learning experience in my life. So of course you think about, can I do something better in the future? Right. So I would rather answer a question a bit differently. So there were a lot of learning moments in my life. But on the other side, I'm very happy where I am at the moment. So not only in business life, but also in my private life. So it cannot be so bad how it has happened, what has happened in the past, right? So really, je ne regrette rien in France. So I don't regret anything. And but there were a lot of learning opportunities on my journey.
Yeah, well, and at least you're aware of that. I think it's when you get to this stage in our careers, and a lot of folks who are listening to this are not where we are. They're starting out on their career journeys. And the thing I just heard then is it's okay to make mistakes as long as we learn from them, right? And then don't make the same mistake again.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but also just one comment on that one, if I may.
Please.
I have heard this comment quite often, and it's, let's say, it's a theme in the business life. But what I also have found out that a lot of people think like it's okay to make mistakes if you make mistakes. But if I make mistakes, I punish myself a lot, and that is something when we really need to be kind with ourselves as well, to allow ourselves to make mistakes via learning, because we still, then to be honest, a lot of people, and I am like this sometimes as well, I hate making mistakes right? And there I need to also learn a little bit, and everyone needs to learn. It's okay for others to make mistakes, but we need to be kind to ourselves and also acknowledge that that is what brings us ahead in our learning journey.
That is so good. You're literally making me reflect on yesterday, because yesterday was a strange day. I think Halloween's approaching and something was going on. But I'd over-prepared. I'd gotten myself into a situation where I think I'd thought of every possible answer that the customer might have. And then when it actually got to the situation, things that were wildly out of my control took place. Funnily enough, the internet died. We lost power on the house. We couldn't continue the conversation. And there's things that are just outside of your control, right? That it just, yes, what you just said resonates very much. Okay, so let's talk about digital revolution. There's a lot that you are involved with, and there's a lot that you talk about. So what's been the biggest surprise for you in the digital revolution that's taken place over the last decade?
It's mainly that we talk about it a whole decade. So what I mean is, to be honest, 10 years ago, I thought it would be speeding up faster. So for me, it's a bit of a lack of speed. So from my perspective, maybe in the consumer world, we are living more in the digital revolution. For example, having our mobile continuously with us, living in the digital world. But in the enterprise world, I still feel a bit, 10 years ago, I would have thought that our processes would be more digital at some point, more seamless and all these kind of things. So on one hand, it's a bit of lack of speed, what holds us back. So really in IT services, in these kind of topics. And on the other hand, if I may add on, it's that we are so far behind in what we need for the digital revolution, which means, what do I mean for this example? When I look at a company like Microsoft is very much into the AI space. For the AI space, a lot of data needs to flow. So there's a big data stream what you need to satisfy. And you can only do it by big pipes, and which means big pipes cannot be on coax, big pipes need to be on fiber. So when I look at last year, for example, I was in a conference in the US where we were talking about the fiberization in the US, and I was really surprised that US, who is really a front runner in digitalization, is so far behind in providing the basis for the digitalization, which is more or less, the pure big pipes on fiber in the ground. Yeah. And that are two things which really surprise me, that we let ourselves hold back by these very obvious things which we don't do.
Yeah. I've never even thought of it like that, and it's so true. Yeah. You mentioned earlier on in this call, and in this conversation, I have to take you back to it, that you're very happy outside of work as well. So tell me about yourself outside of business. What are a couple of things that bring you happiness?
Yeah, I think I'm not very special in that one. I hope that everyone finds his satisfaction outside of work in people. If it's friends, or if it's family, if it's children, if it's parents, or if it's just your best friends, or having dinner and talking with people. So I am very social, and I need social contact. So I need to have friends and also walk down the street and then bump into someone I know, or these kind of topics. So that really drives me. And another topic which is very important for me is actually martial arts. So I really love doing boxing, kickboxing, and also self-defense, always different techniques. If it's I also was into Chinese defense techniques and all this kind of topics. Every year I do something different, so that really gives me a lot of energy. And last but not least, as I said earlier on, I'm very addicted to nature. So when I'm going on holiday, most of the time I go hiking. So that's my typical holiday for me.
Tell me more about the martial arts then. So how long have you been involved with that?
At the beginning, in the earlier years, I think I started at 19, so not too early. Actually, it was not. I grew up in the middle of nowhere. You don't have these things there, I must admit. And especially it was not, when I grew up, it was not a girl thing. So, so it was really by the time that only men or boys did martial arts thing. The first thing what I did was actually when I went to university. So I went into kickboxing. And then it was a bit on and off. I moved to other cities. It always depended on the right dojo. So it doesn't have to be only the right sport. It needs to be the right team and the right environment. It needs to fit. And so I started it early in my 19s, but really I'm addicted, I must say, since about 7 years. So roughly. Yeah.
And I read, I think it was on your LinkedIn profile, or it was when we were chatting previously, that you were a student, obviously, in martial arts, as you've said, but also of, is it Zazen?
Yeah, I'm practicing Zazen. So Zazen. So that is how we call it. Yeah, that is a meditation in seating. So you sit there. It's a very structured approach. So it's coming out of Asia, and the way I'm practicing Zazen is a Japanese approach, and Japanese things always come with structure. So it's very structured approach. You practice it exactly 25 minutes. You sit there and do nothing. So you breathe in and breathe out. You sit on your knees and do nothing for 25 minutes. And then you can add on top several sessions. So when I go sometimes for a Zazen weekend or a long weekend, then I do roughly, 7, 8, 9 sessions a day, but always 25 minutes, then 5 minutes break, then another 25 minutes. So that is the specific how you would see, how would you see or judge from an external view what is Zazen. What happens in your inside world, if I may add on this, is that your energy in the Western world, or it is especially, so how I sense it, it's here. My energy level is here. I'm acting here, I'm thinking here, I'm moving here. So as you can see, and my energy level is more or less in that part. And Zazen, you try to bring the energy down in the center of your body, so around your belly button, and that is where your energy center should sit to make calm decisions. And that is what you try to do with it. That is why you sit. That is why you're on your knees as well. So to assure that your energy level is going down. So your focus, for example, is not on breathing in. We don't care about breathing in, we care about breathing out.
So many people speak so highly of you when it comes to your leadership style. This must have led someone into your approach to leadership. Can you tell me a little bit about your approach to leadership? And
well, as a person, I'm very energetic. So as I just described, I'm very much here in this center. So I can inspire people, I can act, but that is good at the younger side of your career. But when you gain more seniority, then you have to develop more calmness.
Mm.
So to be able, for example, to stay also calm when it's when the shit hits the fan, if I may say so.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Then I personally needed to develop this in myself, and that's where Zen came into. So I developed a kind of state where I'm more calm than I was in the past. And if I may bring an example, for example, in the past, when I was listening to someone, I was listening to prepare an answer, right? So that was the reason why I was listening. And now I'm listening to understand and take my time to reflect on it and then come with an answer. So that has helped me a lot in developing that skill.
And you mentioned what you're doing is what was the Japanese version of it with structure around it. Does that mean that you have a certain amount of structure to your day? So can you tell us about a typical day? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, and that is a thing which I'm not sure if it's good at or if it's bad. So I have a very structured day. So I have a very structured life. So I put structure in my days to relieve myself from needing to think of what I need to do next. So for example, when I have an interview with you, in my calendar, there is 20 minutes beforehand, stop working because you have to prepare for the interview with them, right? So I put structure in everything, and I put structure in everything when it comes to sport. So most of the time I do sports in the mornings. So it's in my calendar, and that relieves me from thinking, do I need to do sport or don't I need to do sport? I just do sport because it's in the structure of my day. That can be something, or also Zen meditation. This evening at 19:30, I have a blocker in my calendar, Zen meditation. So I know already now when I do it, and that helps me a lot. But I also do know that it doesn't work for everyone. But I'm a very structured person with my
I'm sure folks listening as well, if you're not a structured person, but you suffer maybe from anxiety, putting structure around your day to some degree can help relieve that anxiety. So I think there's lessons there for lots of different people listening. And then you mentioned like unwinding at the end of the day. Is that your stress relief? Is that the way? Because you're in a big role, big responsibilities, a lot going on in your life. Is that how you unwind at the end of the day?
I always need to do something to unwind. Day. It is either meditation, but it can be also sport. It can be a walk, so walking. But it cannot be, but it needs to be something for myself and something only with myself. So for example, when I have a dinner, even with my friend, I'm not invited, unwinded. So I need to unwind in addition. So the shortest thing what I do to unwind is a 10 minutes meditation, a guided 10 minutes meditation in bed, right? So that is, when I don't have time for this, I always have time. But I need to do something to unwind. So I cannot do like some people can do it, right? Going full straight on at work and working until 10, 11 o'clock, then having a beer with a colleague and then falling into bed. That is just not me. I need to unwind.
I used to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I used to be able to, but as I've gotten older, it's become harder and harder to do that. But
and it's also nicer, and you have to have so much things in your brain to process, right? So you need a little bit of time for this.
And in your role, because so many people are ultimately dependent on the decisions that you're making, you're probably getting, I would assume, pulled in lots of different directions during the day. How do you, I mean, obviously you talked a lot about focus and prioritization and structure, but how do you make those decisions around what actually is important and what does need to get done?
To be honest, the decision making is, from my perspective, always the easiest part. So make the decision that should stay with me. But during the day, I'm quite often pulled in many directions. Like, can you help me here? Can we discuss this? Can you give me advice on these kind of things? And there is where I rather try to pull back. So I have a saying: I delegate everything what I can delegate.
Mm-hmm.
So to keep time for me, to keep me free for doing really decisions work, because a lot of and also decisions you can delegate, right? So, and that is also important. So that keeps a lot of time for me to only do the decision which only I can do, right? And the rest should be done by my team. So that is also how I try not to get overworked. And the good thing is to share another topic with, or another experience I have. I have worked in different organizational units, as I said, in procurement, delivery, and in sales. When I went into sales, I was already a sales leader. So I did. I took over a role which others in my team operationally could do better. So they were experienced in sales. I was experienced in leadership. So I had to rely on my team. I never had the experience in this leadership roles in sales that I'm a better salesperson than you are. So I don't think like that. So it's easy for me to delegate things to other people, because I know that other people have another experience, and they are in a lot of things better than I am. So I keep this with them, and I stick to the things where I think I better, or just due to my role or due to my experience, I need to do this decision.
Thinking of people again who are starting out in their career right now, having just heard that and everything else that you've shared, what would be your biggest piece of advice for someone specifically who wants to be doing what you're doing one day?
Yeah. Well, I'm a fan of sales, as I already mentioned. So I think I would be, I really would recommend everyone to work in sales and at least get the experience. It is from my perspective, also the toughest part of a company where you can work in, but it's the best part because you're just in the heart, as I mentioned earlier on, of the company, and you're closest to your customers. So I would always recommend and always say, please have at least in your career a certain sales experience. It doesn't need to be everything and not the whole career path, but something should be done in sales. That is what I always would recommend. Amazing. And always see customers, even if you're not in sales, even if you're in procurement, even if you're in finance. See and have contact to your customers, that you are aware of what their issues is, where you need to solve them, to solve it.
Amen. 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 A couple more for you before we wrap. So, as you look out to the future, are there any big goals that you might have, or we call them siren calls at Numentum, but any siren calls that are taking up space in your mind?
Yeah, maybe to share one a bit personal one, if I may. I'm German. And I lived my whole life in Germany, and I want to take care about the German economy as well. And it's a shame that one of the biggest economies of Europe is so far behind in digitalization and in fiberization. So if I have one thing I would like to add on, is really to fiberize this country. So fiberize my country, if I may say so.
I love it. Very, very cool. And I can't let you go without talking about diversity, because you're obviously a huge advocate. There's a lot that you've posted on this topic. So what do you think we all could be doing better?
So when I post on LinkedIn, when you follow my post, for example, it's a lot about diversity between men and women. And that is a topic which we need to focus on, of course, and I'm an ambassador for that one. But quite often it's limited to this. So diversity is easy to judge, everyone can see that you're a man and I'm a woman, so we can judge it, we can track it, we can analyze it and all this kind of things. But I would like to expand diversity a little bit to other areas. It is culture on one hand, but also age. I think we can learn a lot from the younger generation and give them space. And we can also learn a lot from the more experienced workforce from the senior workforce, so senior colleagues. And that is sometimes, I think there's a big fourth in bringing these two different ages together to create something. So when I look at diversity, I would like not to stop it with men and women. Also, I'm ambassador for it, but also look at other things, and which we need to embrace as well.
And it brings so much positivity to businesses anyway, because the more diverse the organization, the more incredible thinking that takes place and collaboration and new ideas. It's so obvious. But I wish more of us did more to.
What I would like to add on diversity as well, the diversity comes with a price. So we need to be aware that it's easier to work in a non-diverse organization. True. If everyone is thinking like Andrea is thinking, the decisions are so easily done. So when you work in a diverse environment, you have to have different experience, different ideas to bring together to one. So that costs also something. So please invest in it as well, and don't take the easy parts in hiring lookalikes to make your daily life easier. Invest really in it and getting to know each other and finding the best, what could be the best possible outcome by diversity in itself.
So good. All right, I've got one more question for you. One more question.
Okay, that is the difficult one now.
Knowing what you know now, and you said you've got no regrets, so that's not the question. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell your 12-year-old self if she were listening?
So don't be afraid of your fears. Your fears will help you. They will lead the way for you, right? So when I was younger, I had a lot about fears and worried about the future. And I was always seeing fear as something bad. They are not. They just guide you. They make you alert. They show you where you need to be. Go where your fear is, and don't worry too much about it. Just embrace them. There's something positive.
So true. Andrea, thank you so much for joining us. That was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful speaking with you.
Thank you so much as well, Dan. It was really nice from my side as well.
Well, that's all we've got time for on this episode of the Numentum Speaker Series. Andrea, thank you so much for joining us, and look forward to speaking with you soon.